Hello again, it's Steve Grizzetti, co-founder of MoviePix.com and author of the MoviePix Guide to Adobe Premiere Elements. And here we are in part 4 of our 8-part basic training tutorial series with Premiere Elements. Now there are a couple of ways to get from one clip to another. Most often what you'll use is the basic cut. And a cut means you abruptly go from this scene to this scene. And that's what we've got here is a basic cut. But sometimes to add some drama, to change the feel or the scene, we want to add a transition of some kind. Now there are a couple of transitions. The most basic transition to get from one scene to another is the fade, or the fade in or the fade out. There, that's kind of like the curtains open and closing between acts in a play. To add a fade in or fade out to a clip, you right click on the clip on your timeline, go down here to the fade option, and you see you have a number of options here under fade. You can fade in the audio, fade in the video, fade in audio and video, fade out audio, fade out video, or fade out both audio and video. I'm going to select that for this particular clip. And you notice that when I do, I get what are called keyframes. Keyframes are little dots that appear on these rubber bands that run horizontally through the clips. Now keyframes are tremendously powerful. They show up in a number of tools here in the program. We go into great depth in our books about how to use keyframing and just how powerful it is. But this is a pretty basic use for keyframing. You notice that this rubber band, as indicated at the upper right of the clip, is the rubber band representing opacity. And the higher this rubber band is set, the higher the opacity. It's set by default at 100%, which means no transparency at all. And when you create this keyframe, it goes from 100% down to 0%, which looks like to us a fade out. I'm going to mute the audio. By the way, you can mute the audio and disable audio and video tracks by simply clicking on the icon on the track header. So I'm going to mute the audio, and I'm also going to mute the music by clicking on those little icons. So we won't have those distracting us as we work. But now when I move the playhead over here to the end of the clip, you'll notice that the opacity will fade from 100% down to 0%. Why does it look like it's going to black? Because there's nothing underneath the clip. If our clip were on an upper track and we were using this fade out, we would actually be creating a dissolve. But in most cases, you're using it on your video 1 track with nothing behind it. And this opacity keyframing will appear as a fade out. Now at the same time, we have a rubber band running through our audio, which represents, of course, the audio level. It even says volume level here. And that is going from 0, which is just the audio in plain vanilla, down to negative infinity, which will bring the audio from whatever level it's at down to 0. So that's a fade out. You can also do a fade in, exactly the same, only backwards. You right click on a clip here, like this first clip, go to fade and select the option to fade in audio and video. I want to show you something here. Let's move the playhead back to the first clip. I'm going to go over to quick view. Notice your fade out or fade in options are a little bit different. So when I right click on a clip, my fade can either be to fade in, which is going to fade in both audio and video, fade out, which is going to fade in both audio and video, or a fade in at the beginning of the clip and a fade out. So a little bit different options there in quick view. Let's go back to expert view. Now that is the basic way to begin or end a long sequence, is to fade in. Maybe that's the beginning of your movie and fade out at the end. There are also transitions, a whole library of transitions built into the program. You'll find them here on the action bar at the bottom of the program. I'll click on that. And you notice that under video and audio, there are separate selections. Under video, it always defaults to frequently used here, but we can go up to any of these categories. I'm going to select show all. We have 15 different categories of transitions. And if we were to add one here, say for instance, this iris cross between these two clips, that will create the transition between the two clips. You notice when you first add your transition, and you can get the screen back by double clicking on the transition, you get some basic options here for where the transitions land, a little to the left, a little to the right, or evenly between the clips. There's also a more button on most transitions, and when you click on that, you can scroll down and you have some other options for things like, is there going to be a border between the two transitions? Is the border going to have a color? Or will the transition go right to left or left to right? You can control that with reverse. There's also anti-aliasing, which deals with just how jagged the edge is between the two clips coming and going. And in the book, we detail what the various options are for transitions and how to control them. Click done when you're done. And here we can see our transition from one clip to the other using what's called an iris cross in this particular case. A huge library of transitions here in Premiere Elements. Just a note, by the way, that under Expert View, you have a whole bunch of categories that you can get to either by clicking at the top here, using these forward and backward arrows along the top, or you can jump directly to a transition, say dissolve, by clicking on this little magnifying glass and typing the name of the transition, and the program will, in real time, will show you only the transitions that meet with the criteria you've typed into the search box. Turn that off. I'm going to uncheck that so there's nothing in the search box. I want to show you just one more thing. You saw the huge number of transitions that are available to you in Expert View. If you go to Quick View, notice you have a limited number of transitions. And I'm going to drag on the top of the box so you can see just all of the transitions, total of 16 in Quick View. So limited options in Quick View, but as I say, you can switch back and forth between Quick View and Expert View to take advantage of each workspace. Now in our next segments, we're going to talk more about some of the higher level tools in Premiere Elements, like creating effects, adding adjustments to your pictures, creating titles. We'll do that in parts 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you can see those tutorials right here at MoviePix, MUVIPIX.com. And if you want to know everything about the program, how to, step by step, be sure to check out our books, the MoviePix.com Guides to Adobe Premiere Elements and the MoviePix.com Guides to Adobe Photoshop Elements and Premiere Elements together. They're available at Amazon.com and, of course, right here at our MoviePix store. I'm Steve Grizzetti. Hope to see you in Part 5.